with morning. Hey to the most amazing nurses. It is Dr. V here with Morning Infusion with Dr. V podcast, where we are intentional about teaching nurses how to work from anywhere around the world, making money and owning your own time, building profitable nurse coaching and consulting businesses. You will hear from amazing guests that have grown their companies and want to share insight into how you can do the same to change the face of healthcare as we know it. If you want to grow your businesses and leverage your knowledge as a nurse to grow wildly successful businesses at the top, instead of working your way to the top, head on over and join our Millionaire Nurse CEO group on Facebook, where you can ask questions and get updates on our live and virtual events to help you grow your businesses. Hi, everyone. So welcome. I am super excited today because I have Raquel McCorvey, who is absolutely a phenomenal person. We have just gotten along. We just have a great relationship with each other. So I want you, Raquel, to describe yourself. Tell the people who you are in your own words.
Okay, I'm Raquel McCorvey. I am the CEO and owner of BeLuxxe Health and Wellness. It's a med spa located here in Lafayette, Louisiana. I'm a Christian woman. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother. And according to God, I'm a cheerful giver.
I love it. Okay, so we always go back to the very beginning because the very beginning makes the difference, right? So the title of this is that you didn't have a bed when you were growing up. So what was that like?
Well, when you don't have, you don't know what you don't have. So growing up, I was raised by my grandparents. So it's not like I didn't necessarily have a bed, but the way the household structure was set up, I had uncles who lived there as well. So they had their own bedrooms, but I literally slept on the sofa in the living room. So I didn't have a closet to put my clothes in. Although my mother had her own home, so I did have a room over there. But again, I was raised by my grandparents. That's where I took the bus to go to school, and that's practically where I lived. So I'd go to sleep on the sofa and then wake up the next morning and where I could actually see in the kitchen. And my grandfather and a bunch of men, family members, were there drinking coffee. So no, I did not sleep in a bed growing up.
Wow. And so now tell me a little bit about why you even wanted to become a nurse.
I think, growing up, we've watched like elderly family members get sick. So we were always in the presence of observing other people in our family, like taking care of each other. So I think just watching other family members nurture one another kind of had me gravitating toward that. All through school, I knew that I wanted to be a nurse, but there was like nobody in my family or anybody that I could really go to ask, like, how do I get into nursing school? What do I need to do? And so I made really, really good grades in school that was able to afford me a scholarship. But the school that I chose to go to didn't offer nursing. So hence then I went into pre-pharmacy, only to end up getting pregnant after I got there, and then decided that I was going to come back home. My grandparents just wanted me to like continue going to school and they would raise the kid. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this. So I transferred to a school that had a nursing program. But the school that I was going to go to, when I went to meet with their dean, I was just asking a bunch of questions. If you know me, I'm the type, like, I have to be able to see the big picture before I'm just going to commit. And so I go to this university, meet with the dean, and I'm asking like serious questions. And she's like, well, we'll discuss that when we get closer to that. So that's when I realized this is not the school for me. I had a 4.0 grade point average. And this woman talked to me like I was the dumbest little girl she ever met. So that had me go to a different school that welcomed me with open arms, and I was able to get into their nursing program, and hence my beginning of my nursing career started.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And the reality is that I hear these stories about people talking to, I don't think I've ever experienced that, where, there was this conversation like you don't need to know, or the conversation like the condescending conversations. But I've heard that we have talked on these podcasts, I've heard that a lot. And that is absolutely crazy to me. But,
Yes.
it, you found out the school that you needed to go to. And so I'm super, super glad of that. So you got into nursing school, you became a nurse. How, after you became a nurse, so how did that, did you keep your baby during that time?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Did you keep your baby during that time? How far?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So she was probably one when, I was really like into nursing school. So I had to rely on my village, which was my family members, to help me. Um, at the time, I was dating my high school boyfriend and eventually married him. But it was difficult. So if you can kind of remember your college years, that was like your fun time, and people were going out and partying. But, I had a kid. So not only did I have to make the grade to stay in nursing school, pass the course, but I also had to work to be able to provide for her. So it was a very, very difficult time, but luckily I was able to persevere, utilize my resources that I had that helped me, that saw me, saw the goals that I had and was able to help out. So I was able to persevere and push through.
So now, outside, how far were you? Hey, Dr. Gould, Anita's on. So how far were you from your school was from your home?
So the school was about 40 minutes.
40.
So I had to drive there every day, or at least every other day, and drive 40 minutes back, and then figure out how I was going to go to work. My car wasn't really reliable. So I carpooled with a friend of mine that, we went to high school and grade school together. But there were several times that I had to call my dad to come and get me because the car broke down on the side of the road. So, I would pretty much go to school during the day and then work in the evenings, and, get a break whenever I could.
So now you went to school, you got your nursing job. Once you got your nursing job, then where did you initially work at?
So by the time I graduated, I got accepted into a program within the hospital. It was called the ACE program, which stands for Alliance for Clinical Enhancement. So I worked there kind of like as a nursing student, but they were able to allow me to do like tech type work. So by the time I graduated, I was already offered a job in the emergency room where I was already spending a lot of my time working. So straight out of school, I had a job. I just had to pass my NCLEX. And so I passed and started working in the emergency room, but working the night shift, where I was the
So
only female aside from the, say again?
did you choose that? Did you choose the emergency department?
Yes. Yes. I mean, that's where all the action was. There was never a dull moment. Time would fly during the shift. And it's just something that I loved. But then over the years, I know you're a former ER nurse too, you get burnt.
Right.
And it's amazing. You had this amazing podcast or mastermind on yesterday where you showed that picture. Girl, I had some flashbacks with the patients, in the hallway because we really had no beds sometimes. So yeah.
But magically they disappear whenever Jacob gets there. I don't know how that works, right? I don't know how
Exactly. Exactly.
I love it. So how long did you work in the ER?
I probably stayed there 2 or 3 years. And then I got accepted. Well, I applied for a position as a church nurse where I was assigned to work two different churches within my community. One was a huge, large African American Catholic church, and the other one was a large African American Baptist church. So, pleased to know that I was able to be a nurse in the church and be able to really, really help to serve our community.
And that was a full-time job for you to
That
be.
was a full-time job. I worked 20 hours at Immaculate Heart of Mary Catholic Church and 20 hours at Progressive Baptist Church, which is now my church home.
And so were they in alliance with each other, or you just had 20 hours and this is under one governance and then 20 hours on another?
Yeah, 20 hours on each. But then there were certain programs, like let's say if we had a health fair at one location, it was kind of like we all meshed and had a mesh into one big family. But I provided the same services at each location for 20 hours a week.
Wow, I love it. So now, and one of the things that I talk about is because at our church is growing exponentially. And so whereas we moved into the Home Depot, and it was because we were just growing at that rate. And so we opened up the big sanctuary, which I didn't realize what the plans were at the time, but they realized, obviously. So basically now we're in what's called the CPAW, and that is the big sanctuary, and it's like an event center almost. And
Yes.
and so initially you couldn't, I was like, well, we're not filling this thing up, right? But then after a while, it's full. We cannot, sometimes when we get there, we cannot find a park. It is absolutely full, which is a good problem to have, obviously. But then it creates many more emergencies within the church. And there are a lot of things that go on within the church that, I think a lot of people don't really realize as it relates to, because I was just called the medical emergency response team. So I love it. So now tell me, we talked about you getting laid off from a job. So tell me the job that you got laid off from.
So probably about 3-4 years ago, I was working as a supervisor for a case management company that provided case management services for workers' comp. So it was a nursing role, but I supervised like 10 people throughout the state of Louisiana. Some of them were nurse case managers, others were vocational nurse case managers. And this was around the time COVID hit. So we were hit pretty hard in terms of cases. There were some things going on within the organization that I didn't care for. I was one of the more vocal ones, I would say. So then eventually I was, out of nowhere laid off. When I questioned, reasoning, not that they had to give me one, I was told because I was the last supervisor to be hired is why I was let go. But I was offered a severance package. So that kind of had me thinking right then and there, like, okay, this is a nursing job. I'm now laid off, but I am a nurse practitioner. So I was like, you know what? Let me find my purpose and go back to working as an NP. And so that's what I did. Didn't really quite know the path just yet. So I went and got a certification as a death doula because I knew that I loved the hospice arena, taking care of those who are terminally ill. And I was already working hospice PRN at the time. So I got my death doula certification and then started working hospice and palliative care.
So I first want to go back to now I just want everybody to know, when you're in an organization and that organization has this thing where they want to let you go, they will let you go. And they don't have to have a specific reason for it. They will find a reason. And that is the good thing about being the CEO of your company, because you get to decide.
And so that's the reason, that's one of the reasons why I'm very, very intentional about teaching people who like you, because the fact that you were vocal means that there was something that was going on that you didn't, because I know your character, that didn't vibe with you. And when that happens, sometimes you can't say anything. Sometimes you're muted, right? And so
Correct.
being very intentional about, being like me, because I'm that person too that is the vocal one, right? And so
Yeah.
we're just very different, and we lead life differently. Now, the next thing that I want to know is what. Listen, Dr. Gould already should have took the words out of my mouth. She said, "I never heard of a death doula." That is very interesting. Tell me what a death doula is.
So basically, if you think about a birthing doula, somebody who will help the woman during the transition when the baby is born, the death doula kind of helps that person prepare for their transition on into heaven. So more so being like a resource and support person. It's not a medical position. If you look at, anybody can become certified to become a death doula. So for example, if I have somebody who is whether they're on hospice or not, just somebody who has a terminal illness and that person is dying. They may call upon a death doula to come into the home to be a support person for the family, to provide education, to provide resources. And you could literally get paid for those services.
That is that is
Yes.
amazing. I don't think I've ever heard of that. That is so
Yes.
amazing. So now tell me, you went back to school, but then you took the job as the supervisor, but you were already F&P at that time, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Did you have your that's mental health, right? The HP, is that mental
No,
health?
I got that afterward. So basically, the PMHNP, psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, I was already certified as family.
Uh-huh.
But for me, I believe in doing what you love. So, you know, when I was working as the supervisor for as a case manager supervisor, I really was, I guess, content, and pretty much making about the same as I would be making as a family nurse practitioner. So there was no drive to make me say, okay, I want to quit this job so that I can go work in a clinic somewhere. Um, Psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner is something I had always wanted to do. But then, every now and then you get that one patient and you're like, nah, I can't do this. And so I eventually, when COVID hit, saw all these people not doing well from losing loved ones, and mental health just getting worse and worse for some people, that made me go back to school to become a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. So I completed that program probably a couple of years ago. Yeah.
And so once you completed the psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner program, or you got certified in there, then what did you start to do?
Okay, so my goal was at the time, I'm always focus on my family. So I wanted to do something that gave me flexibility to be able to like attend all my kids' events, be able to bring them to school, pick them up, and all of that. So my plan in my mind was, okay, I'm going to do the psych NP stuff, and then I'm going to work from home, and see patients virtually, and then that way, I can still do what I want to do. Well, lo and behold, I end up going to the B&E conference, the Black Nurse Entrepreneur Conference, and there were a bunch of nurses and nurse practitioners there who looked like me, who had some of the same stories that I had. And just listening to one of the presenters, Tammy Marshall, she was speaking about her med spa, and how sharing her story, talking about her bus Ladybird that supports the community. And it was at that moment that I was inspired to open a med spa because I realized, when you think about it, it's all related to psych some sort of way, where you have these women and men who come in with, issues with self-esteem. And I realized at that point, I can help more people. But again, I'm at this conference thinking I'm going there just for psych. That was my intention, was just initially to just learn how to open up my own psych practice and come back to Louisiana and do it. Then, I met you sitting at, and you were one of the speakers. And what I really, really liked about that conference is, I'm used to going to a conference where you have no access to the speaker. But yet here I was sitting at a table eating breakfast with you, and you just asked me what it was I was trying to do. And I was like, I want to open a med spa. So then you said, okay, I'm going to put you with this lady named Jamie Bryant. And I'm like, okay, cool. So later that night, we go to this dinner, and not only does Jamie Bryant receive an award, and you kind of look at me and I was like, yeah, I remember that's the name. Tammy Marshall also received an award. So then I knew right then and there, that these were the people for me. And lo and behold, I end up meeting Jamie and went through her program. And then she was able to help me get my med spa going and fast tracked in no time.
And Jamie, and I tell this all the time because Jamie speaks very, very highly of you. Because, whenever you're in a coaching program, one of the things that you have to be is you have to be coachable. And one of the things that she said about you was that you were coachable. And because you were coachable, there were things that, that happened that, like, you really excelled in the med spa arena. And so I'm incredibly proud of that. I'm so proud of kind of how that turned out. Now, tell me some of the challenges that you have had within the med spa arena.
So when I officially opened, because, you plan before you actually open the place. And so we opened last January, and it was just me. So I was still working hospice full time. So my job was to try to control the schedule so that I wasn't necessarily spread too thin, but yet still be able to commit to my hospice job, which was my main thing at the time. Well, lo and behold, it grew and faster than I was ready. So within a month, I had to bring on another nurse practitioner. So probably within a year's time frame, hired about three to four nurse practitioners, had to bring on a receptionist. We added a massage therapist. We recently added a Reiki sound therapist. So having to manage all of these people and still try to work a full-time job was very challenging. But yet you kind of have to be involved and engaged in your business to know the day-to-day. You have to know your numbers and those sorts of things. So probably what became challenging as part of managing people was also having the courage built up to be able to not be afraid to terminate people that had to go. So I would say that has been the most challenging. And also too, as a new business, trying to figure out ways to make sure your revenue is coming up and, that, you're able to be profitable and be able to sustain. So I was lucky that, within 6 months, we were able to generate 6 figures. I actually received an award for that. But, by the end of the year, had to terminate a couple of people. And so another challenge is you may end up losing some clients along the way. And then you always have to be able to engage. One of the other challenges we had was dealing with IV hydration, where our state board had some certain rules in place where there was a point in time where we made a decision that we were not going to do IV hydration. And so challenge there is, okay, so what do you put in its place? So I was blessed to have been trained by Jamie Bryant, and had, by the time I actually opened, I had 8 additional certifications. So I was able to pivot, during those hard times. But I would say that's probably one of the most challenging, but yet able to pivot and bounce back and not have to worry.
And and I think that one of the things that is very clear, and this is the reason why I like nurses going into business, is because your skills are transferable, right? So you were the supervisor at your previous job, and so your skills are transferable when it comes to, because nobody likes to talk about firing people. And I talk about lovingly firing people, giving them because you don't want to make them feel bad. However, when they're not performing or when they're being dishonest, right? Up to par. And that's one of the reasons why whenever it comes to anything, right, you need to know what your numbers are. And so, we in our company, we've started to assign numbers to each person. So whatever your job is, this is the numbers. This is how much you need to be pulling in. And if you're not, then you need to be thinking innovatively of how we can change what we're doing in order for you to be able to do that. So that is really, really key. And so I love that you were able to pivot. You were able to do things that you needed to do, and just working through it. And that's what nurses do, right? We just work through it. And I love, love, love how your story has just been like one of those things that's been amazing, amazing, amazing. I hear things about you all the time because, as you know, Jamie and I are really good friends.
Yes.
And so I'm super excited about what you've got going on. So now, if someone wants some med spa services, and it's in Lafayette, correct? Louisiana?
Yes, ma'am. Lafayette, Louisiana.
And so, and you don't, I just want to tell you this, you don't have the normal Louisiana twang, because y'all have a different twang than the rest of us in the South. You don't have that. I just want to let you know, okay? We're going to have to pick that up.
Some people think I do. Or let me say, there are people who walk up to me and say, "You from Louisiana?"
Do it now?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So tell us where they can find you.
Okay. So for those who are in Louisiana, and whether you're in Louisiana or not, we are located right near the airport. So if you want to fly down to Lafayette, Louisiana, come on board. We're located at 106 Oil Center Drive, Suite 104B as in boy, Lafayette, Louisiana 70503. Our phone number is 337-549-5800. You can also look us up. Our website is www.BeLuxxeHW. That's BeLuxxeHW.com. You can also find us on Facebook, BeLuxxe Health and Wellness. And we're also on Instagram, BeLuxxe_Health and Wellness.
Love it. I love it. I love it. And that's where you need to be, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. We talked about visibility on the masterclass last night. And Dr. Gould said, "I love your story, Raquel." Dr. V and Raquel, have a wonderful day. And everyone else have a wonderful day as well. We are having another masterclass that's coming up March 12th. So we look forward to seeing you. And if you want to work from anywhere around the world, make money and own it full time, building profitable nurse coaching and consulting businesses, you can hit us up at V as in Victor, P as in Paul Nursing. I ask that you like, share, and comment on this video so that we can get it out to more people, because we need to increase the footprint of nurses that are going into business, because that will change the face of healthcare as we know it. So it has been an amazing day. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, you are the bottom. You the bottom. You know I was gonna have you.